Yeah, man, that's crazy. 40 days, God, I've been Swayze. Grew the beard out, that ain't shady. That's a bird, man, I ain't baby. Talking whole pie, that's so crazy. How I got a shot, raise the bean sprout up, put a crown up on her head so the boys seeing, no, that's a lady. If you ain't catch a double that time on the last rhyme, dog, I could help you. I got plenty more where that came from. When I brainstorm, I need shelter. It's enough water from the most high, even low tide, he gon' wet you. Better learn how to dance in the rain, ain't no use without an umbrella. When I yap for the king, I'ma lap anything on the track. When I rap and I scrap in the ring, back in the Mac. When I cock back in the swing, get a pap and you gotta lay flat when it. That's a mantra. Change the way y'all see the Father. Sing praise to the Most High, so when most die, y'all see His honor. He was dripping with the backlash, and he let him zip him in the black bag. For the intermission was a hashtag, but the demolition wasn't that sad. It was intuition and a premonition, but the imposition wasn't that bad. It was cynicism with the inhibition, but the bigger vision was the last.
While the whole world is watching Iran right now, something happened this week that most people completely missed. Trump publicly went to war with the banks. And I don't mean metaphorically, I mean he called them out by name. And the reason why this matters to you is simple. The outcome of this fight will determine which side of the biggest wealth transfer of our lifetime you end up on. Banks aren't fighting stablecoins because they're dangerous. They're fighting them because stablecoins expose a part of the banking system that only works if you can't opt out. Now, on the surface, this gets framed as regulation or safety, maybe even politics. But that's not what's really happening. Now, this is a very quiet power struggle over who controls money once custody and settlement stop requiring permission. Now, if you've been following my work on stablecoins and liquidity expansion, then this is the resistance phase that always comes right before the money moves.
And I turn up, turn up, turn up, turn up to another level. We gon' give him all the praise, cause it ain't nobody better. We gon' turn up, turn up, turn up, turn up to another level. We gon' give him all the praise, cause it ain't nobody better. Can't help myself, can't help myself, I can't help myself. When I get to praising up in this place, I lose my breath, I lose my breath. I can't help myself.
Why they party? I'm in here grinding. Money I'm stacking. Why they rock diamonds? I can't relate to them, ain't my shit common. I set a goal for me, 2 or 3 commas. 7 figures, 8 figures to 9 figures. On a slow pace to get rich quick. Same time we just think different. Cause when you make it, it hit different.
What it do, y'all? It's your partner, Liddell, back in the saddle again for another edition of the Counter Move podcast here on Thursday, guys. Evening. If you guys can do me a favor, guys, if you don't mind, like, share, and subscribe, guys. And if you want a platform to where there's a little bell there, click on that little bell so when your partner comes live, you can come kick it with me, man. We can sit down and vibe a little bit and talk a little bit about business, finance, life, social, you name it. We're going to talk about it, guys. Let's dive into our topics today, guys. We have a really good message. Now, before I begin real quickly, I'm always asked Liddell, how can I get in touch with you? I'm going to say this up front, guys, before I get started, all right, guys? I am on the app called Connect, all right? I'm on the app called Connect. If you have any questions you want to ask me at all on Connect, guys, you are welcome to reach out to me on Connect. It's a app done by my good friend Patrick McDavid and this squad, man. Hey guys, you can DM me any questions. You can FaceTime with me. You can call me. I can video conference with you, or I can answer your question in video conference, whether it be life, business, finance, marriage, structure, scaling, politics, you name it. We talk about it. Let's get it in, guys. Again, scan the QR code here on the screen or below. Click on the link and come out at you if you want to talk to me about anything at all. All right, guys. So I get that question a lot. Here I am. Talk to me anytime you want to. Now, let's dive into our topic today, guys. All right. Guys, today, our topic today is going to be a really good one, guys. Here we go. Man, the U.S. government today is doing a 1940s playbook, right? And it's about the debt. And both Democrat and Republican administrations have operated in this whole form of fashion. All right. Number two, now because of this, Trump has went against the banks. So you have Trump versus the banks as a podcast, and it has to deal with cryptocurrency, guys. Number 3, all this ties into what I call the war economy, right? Following the money. We're going to walk through, in my opinion, the real reason why President Donald Trump went into Venezuela and captured their president, began bombing Iran. Before that, began talking about Greenland. At the exact same time, Ukraine and the whole Russia situation, right? We'll talk about that. And Japan came through. Japan came through, guys, and they needed some help. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but more so tomorrow on What's That Live, because that deals with our real estate industry, guys. So we're going to dive into these topics today. All right, here we go. So let's dive into gotcha. Let's dive into a little bit of our topics real quickly, guys. All right. The first topic, man, it's the 1940s playbook returns. Inflation, yield control, and financial repression explained. All right. Now, this is going to be probably one of the most informative kind of podcasts that I'm going to do. All right. Because we're going to encapsulate 2 administrations, the Biden administration and the Trump administration. Okay, guys? All right? So, but as we unpack this first section and we get into the war section here in the second, guys, right? Let's go back in time a little bit to where when President Biden was the president, right? Here's President Biden, and this is dealing right now, guys, with him sanctioning Russia. Again, this all began with sanctioning Russia, okay? And President Biden did it. He had 2 actions he did. The first thing he did was he sanctioned Russia. What did he sanction? Let's go back in time and listen to what I had to say. Here we go.
This is the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Calling out what he said were illegal acts, U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday announced the first round of new sanctions against Moscow, adding to Western efforts to stop what some fear is the beginning of a full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine. This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
One of the worst security crises in Europe in decades is unfolding as Russian President Vladimir Putin sends what he calls peacekeeping troops to the separatist areas of Donetsk and Luhansk after recognizing them as independent.
I'm going to begin to impose sanctions in response far beyond the steps we and our allies and partners implemented in 2014.
Biden said sanctions are being applied to VEB Bank and Russia's military bank. Starting on Wednesday, U.S. sanctions will begin against Russian elites and their families.
They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well.
Earlier on Tuesday, Germany put the brakes on a new gas pipeline from Russia, and Britain also hit Russian banks with sanctions. The Russian Foreign Ministry criticized the new measures as illegitimate. The European Union agreed to new sanctions aimed at politicians, lawmakers, and officials, banning EU investors from trading in Russian state bonds and targeting imports and exports with separatist entities. Russian Foreign Minister.
So again, as you guys can see, the U.S. led the charge on sanctioning Russia. And then you begin to see Europe and other countries come alongside the U.S. and begin sanctioning Russian bonds, guys. All right. That right there kind of, I wouldn't say crippled, but it kind of hurt the Russian kind of a little bit because there's a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Now, the question is, why is there a conflict between Ukraine and Russia? It's simple. Ukraine used to be a part of Russia back in the day, and Ukraine, of course, is now independent of Russia as their own country, but not detailing any of that information at all. That's important, but not really important. What is Ukraine rich in? Natural resources. So realistically, Russia really wanted the natural resources in Ukraine. So did America. Okay, so did America. So now I want you to unpack that real fast. All right. Again, I want you guys to really pay attention to what it says. The inflation, yield control, and financial repression explained. I want you to understand the money behind this. All right, that's the first video. All right, so now we see President Biden sanctions Russia. Right, boom. Now let's go to the second thing, guys. All right, now in President Biden's president as well, something else happened that was kind of interesting, and it kind of surprised a lot of people, including your partner. So let's bring in another video real quickly here, guys, that I think that's going to be very impressive here. Biden, shortly after that, did something when it came to the Russian and German pipeline. All right, let's see what's going on here with this video, and I want you to pay attention to what the reporters actually say. This is Biden talking about Russia and Ukraine, and I'm sorry, Russia and Germany. Now watch this. Now listen to the words that at the time the sitting president said about, again, oil. Here we go. Let's get it in.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Nord Stream 2 is a German and Russian pipeline. Listen to the questions. Here we go. Listen to the questions.
How will you do that?
Okay.
Exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it. If Russia invades.
So Biden, just after being asked the question, how will we be able to do it? Because it's under German control. Biden's response is, I promise we'll be able to do it, and we did it. Now, why would Biden do this? Why would he first do this and then second sanction Russia? I had my timelines wrong, so forgive me. Why do we do that for? Interesting. Oil. Now, what was Germany and Russia doing? They were what? Trading oil. What is Ukraine rich in? Natural resources. Do you see what's going on? So this really began with Biden here, right? Now, when Biden actually sanctioned Russia, it set the commodities industry globally into the wild, wild west. You begin to see, typically you have what they call a petrodollar, right? That is the currency of the dollar was the exchange of the currency used to trade or do the transaction of oil on the globe. When Biden sanctioned Russia, that set the commodities entry into the wild, wild west. Now you begin to see countries accepting other countries' currency and bypassing the U.S. dollar. Bypassing it. Now, why would they do this for? What is the reason why the United States at the time, this is Liddell's opinion, at the time would do this? Why would they do this for? Why? Interesting. Now, also, real quickly, again, keeping with the 1940s playbook, and you're gonna see the playbook in a second, but I have to outlay the history real quick. Okay, all right. Now let's go to the next video. All right. So first, we actually had Biden threaten Russia when it came to the Nord Stream pipeline. Bombed it, boom, between Germany and Russia. Step two, you had Russia invade or go into Ukraine, right? All because of oil and natural resources, right? Now, also in the Biden administration, you begin to see a pivot to a digital dollar, a digital currency. You don't remember when Biden did this? I know you didn't, guys. Guys, there's something called Fed Now. Fed Now. Liddell, what's Fed Now? I'm actually glad you actually asked, y'all. Let's go to CNBC real quickly and dive through what is Fed Now, all right? This was done during the Biden administration. Here we go.
bank account. The Federal Reserve announcing it has gone live with its new FedNow instant payment system, a system that should allow households and businesses to send payments and receive money immediately without those troubling 3-day holds on checks and waiting for payments to clear in the sender's account and waiting for the bank to open on Monday or after a holiday. The FedNow system is an instant payment system. It's available 24/7, 365 days a year. To begin with, 35 banks and 16 service providers have already signed up. Those banks include things like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, as well as smaller credit unions and other banks. Unclear if the banks are going to charge for this instant payment. They are charged, but they may or may not pass that along to consumers.
Interesting.
Fed Chair Jay Powell saying in a press release, over time, as more banks choose to use this tool, the benefits to individuals and businesses will include enabling a person to immediately receive a paycheck or a company to instantly access funds when an invoice is paid. This doesn't.
Stop right there. Didn't we have Cash App and Venmo for this? Why would the government get into that payment processing business model? And direct competition to Cash App and Venmo. Interesting. Let's keep listening. We almost done.
Eliminate the PayPals and the Venmos of the world or Zelle. Theoretically, they could use the FedNow system, which is a bank-to-bank system, to send payments, but it's unclear, guys, if those services now face a new challenge from banks of all sizes that can offer similar services. Sarah?
Stop right there, guys. So this was in direct competition with Cash App and Venmo, those other immediate payment processing. Now, he did just say at the time they could actually use the federal FedNow system, but what for? Why would a Cash App and Venmo need to use the FedNow system if they already had it set up already? Why? So you have the government basically forcing out competition in that space. And you heard them say that they have not announced any type of charge for that service. Well, Cash App and Venmo charge you a low percentage per transaction. Interesting, right? Again, digitizing the dollar. All right, I want you guys to understand that. Digitizing the dollar. All right, I want you to understand this now. Again, staying with this playbook. Now, guys, what happens is at the time when this actually happened, Biden was president. Of course, there was an election. Now, his policies favored China. It did. How do we know that? Well, China was actually trying to and developed a system that would bypass our SWIFT system. The SWIFT system is what we use to kind of control the global economy. This is how we can sanction like Russia or Iran or other countries. This is through the SWIFT system. Well, China got tired of that, and they designed a system to go around it. They tested it out, and it actually worked. It worked, right? They tested it out, and it worked. If you want to know what that system is, go to my YouTube page, to my Rumble page, whatever it may be, and look up, right? China is right there. I walked through the entire system, and they set it up. Now, with an election, Trump won. Right? Now, Trump, as we both know, his policies really did not really help China at all. They were very adversarial toward China, right? So that being stated, now what happens is now Trump is on the outside when he was being the candidate, right before he got reelected, and was seeing what was going on the global stage. If you guys did not know, almost every president still gets, briefings of what's going on the global stage because they were once presidents, right? From Bush to Obama, because Bush won before he was alive, Carter before he was alive, of course. All presidents still got daily briefings. They still do. So Trump was really hip to what was going on. He was very active on the global stage and domestic stage. Trump won, right? Trump took a pivot, not from digitizing the dollar. He actually shook hands with President Biden on this. He did. You saw President Biden begin the digitalization from a executive branch point of view on the stage. It was always done behind the scenes, but he brought it to the forefront. President Biden did, right? Which is fine. No problem with it at all. Trump came in and now he's taking this to the extreme even more. Now, how do we know this? Simple. Now, Trump gets in, right? And he actually has two appointees. They were vitally important. Two appointees. Who were the appointees? Simple. Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, and the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Now, why are these two individuals so important? Let's look at their background, right, of how they made their millions. The Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, right, made his money with currency exchange. That's how he made his millions. He's a very smart man, a very wealthy man. Hence is why he's Secretary of Treasury. Then you go up to Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick, he made his millions, damn near billions, in what? Cryptocurrency. He is known as a cryptocurrency godfather. His firm actually runs crypto. They do a lot of crypto themselves. So that's how to make their money. This is the guy that's the Secretary of Commerce. You see Trump pivot from currencies to cryptocurrencies. Now, why do we do that for? Out of all of the transactions done through cryptocurrency, 95% of all cryptocurrency transactions are done via the US dollar. Does that sound familiar to the petrodollar? See, Trump actually saw what was going on in the commodities industry, right? He saw how you had countries bypassing the dollar to trade with their own currency to buy oil. Trump said, So Trump then began to pivot over to cryptocurrency. We're going to see in a second, right? And link cryptocurrency with the U.S. bonds and the treasuries. This is so profound, you're going to see in a second, because the Russian finance minister, which is the exact same post as our Secretary of Treasury, came out on camera and said that the U.S. is trying to inflate their debt away. You don't believe me? Here we go. Let's dive into the Genius Act, right? Here we go. Let's dive into it. Here's Trump signing the Genius Act. I want you to listen to what's going on. I'm going to use ABC here so you can see what's going on, guys. This is very important, right? Here is ABC on them talking about Trump signing the Genius Act. Here we go.
Trump is also taking a victory lap today, signing into law the first ever major federal cryptocurrency legislation.
Wow.
It was passed by the House yesterday and the Senate earlier this week with broad bipartisan support. The so-called Genius Act has been a key priority for the president, once a crypto skeptic who now bills himself as the most pro-crypto commander-in-chief in history and whose family business is building an expanding cryptocurrency empire, even launching a meme coin earlier this year. This bill regulates just one specific kind of digital currency called stable coins.
Now who is that? Who is that right there? That's Scott Lutnick, right? That's Scott Lutnick. That's him. That's the cryptocurrency guy right there. And where is Scott Bessent? He's in there somewhere. I don't see Scott in there somewhere, but Scott's in there somewhere. He's pretty tall. He's probably in the back part right there. But that is him, Howard Lutnick, and Scott Bessent were the architects of this thing,
aimed at making them more accessible and more mainstream. Here's what Trump said earlier today when he was signing that bill into law.
This is really a big day. This afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology as we sign the landmark Genius Act into law.
Stop right there. You heard what he just said. Let's hear it again for the folk in the back row. For the folk, I want you to hear it from the president. Here we go.
Trump said earlier today when he was signing that bill into law.
This is really a big day. This afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology as we sign the landmark Genius Act into law.
We want to get right to ABC's senior White House.
So again, guys, global finance, global dominance. That was the reason for the Genius Act. Again, why is that? It's because 95% of all cryptocurrency transactions, no matter the coin, is done via the US dollar. Now, why we do this for? Why? I answer that question in a second. Remember, this is about money and positioning and power on the global stage. Stop thinking about the U.S. domestically. Included in your thinking, but think what is the reasoning for these moves, right? That Biden was taking initially, and Trump was doing this on steroids, right? To be honest with you, they both shook hands with this finance global dominance. Biden's was more domestic control with the digital dollar, Fed and things of that nature. Trump is more global. Okay? Global. Different thing, all right? Different thing. But I believe they share this. Now, let's dive into this real fast. Now, next, guys. Again, next. I'm going to get rid of this real fast, guys. Next, guys, let's dive into this real quickly here. Next, we're still on the playbook. Now let's get into the playbook now. 1940s. All right? This is Trump trying to rewrite the entire financial system. All right? Let's bring in our partner, Mark Moss, on this. He's one of the most genius guys that I've ever met when it came to explain this type of stuff on a global stage. Here's Mark Moss. Watch what he says, guys, all right, concerning cryptocurrency. Watch him. Here we go. Let's get into it.
What if I told you Trump just made a move that could completely rewrite the U.S. financial system and nobody's even talking about it? Now, for the first time in history, the U.S. government is officially endorsing digital assets and stablecoins, and they're pushing banks to play a major role. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just said, quote, "We are going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stablecoins to do that."
Stop right there. Read it right there. We're going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world. Reserve currency. Reserve currency. Let me say it again. Reserve currency. Right? Which was what the petrodollar was. And we use stablecoins to do that. Hello, McFly. Listen. Dominant reserve currency in the world, and we're going to use stablecoins to do that. How? Let's find out.
End quote. But here's where it gets really interesting. They have two ways to do this. One of them is a complete government-controlled system, but the other, it could take us back to a financial model from over 200 years ago, where banks competed to issue their own money. A system that some call chaotic, but others say was one of the greatest golden ages of financial innovation. So the big question is, are we about to see the return of free banking? And if so, what does that mean for you? By the end of this video, you're going to be able to understand exactly what's happening, why the government is pushing this now, and how it could create one of the biggest wealth building opportunities of the decade.
So right there, guys. He goes into deep detail about this whole thing, right? And I will play all of it, but that's not the point that I want to make. All right. I did cover this video in a previous podcast. Go look for it. It's right there. But let's keep moving forward, guys, because the real video is the one I really want you to see. All right. Let's dive into the next one, guys, real quickly here. But I want you guys to see exactly what he was saying. And I want you to see what Scott Bessent actually said. The dominant reserve currency in the world, on the globe, and want to use stable coins to do this. Right? Smart man. Now, Trump's president now, and Maduro comes in. All right? Maduro comes in. He comes in now. Right? He comes in. And we actually go and arrest Maduro. Let's see this. Now, I want you guys to see this, right? And I want to explain to you how earth-shattering this is. This is us arresting the sitting president of Venezuela. I believe the bombing of Iran, this is Liddell's opinion, my only opinion. I believe that the bombing of Iran, right, was already in the plan before this move was made. I believe it. Because of one thing, well, two things: oil and global dominance. Remember, Scott Bessent just said we were going to make the U.S. currency, the most dominant on the globe. Keep it. And we're going to use stablecoins to get it accomplished. So you had the Genius Act, which now attaches bonds and treasuries to the digital space. We're going to see why that's so important from the government standpoint in a second. Here we go. Here we are.
A long walk to face the wrath of American justice for Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia.
Stop right there. So again, let's walk through this. This is the former sitting president of Venezuela and his wife. They were meeting with the Chinese delegation 8 hours before we came and got them. The Chinese delegation was still in the country when we got there. Last time I checked, there are several countries around Venezuela. You have El Salvador, you have Mexico, Colombia, Brazil. All these countries are near Venezuela. And did nobody say nothing? He has a sitting vice president, which is now the acting president of Venezuela. She said nothing when they came and got the sitting president. Venezuela has an army. No one in the army said anything about this at all. What do they know? What do they know? They knew something. They knew something. And China was still in the country, the delegation, and nothing was said at all. Interesting. But why was China there? Very simple. They were there because they were signing a deal with Venezuela concerning the oil. Because China's economy is cratering pretty bad. They have a population problem. And number two, they have a Ponzi scheme problem with an investment called Evergrande. Look it up, Evergrande. Evergrande is a Ponzi scheme that the government of China was doing. And they built ghost towns, entire ghost towns. Look it up. Now they're tearing them down. They built up a lot of pressure, inflation-wise there. So China had to go outside of their country to broker, to get some deals going, to find a way to offload that inflationary effect by being able to send cash out of their country. Make sense, guys? Does that make sense? So again, guys, that's what's kind of going on here. See that? So again, I wanted you guys to see that.
Dressed in matching tan prison
Look at
uniforms,
this.
they're led in handcuffs from a chopper, headed to their first court appearance, surrounded by heavily armed federal agents.
Wow.
It was an all-hands-on-deck operation, getting the captured first couple of Venezuela from a detention center in Brooklyn to federal court in Manhattan. The early morning odyssey began.
So there we go, guys. We captured the sitting president of a sovereign country, and nobody said nothing. They ain't say nothing. Interesting. Now, again, so I believe that this Iran situation was planned before we went to Venezuela. But now, why do we go to Venezuela? Oil. And the deal that the Venezuela signed with China, null and void. China is now out of our hemisphere. Out. Who controls the oil in that area now? The United States. Make sense? Now let's go over to Iran. Right? Because Iran, now why Iran? Why Iran? Well, before I bring on that next video, the reason why for Iran, guys, is very simple. It's because Iran is rich in oil, and they have one of the most busiest canals there to where oil tankers come by. How do we know that? They were bombing them. when the U.S. attacked them. The goal there was to control the oil there, to force China and Russia into a corner, which we may have done. Right? So now, let's go to the playbook. Right? So we got the history, the history from digitizing the dollar, the strategy that we actually been using, right, to get this accomplished, right, on a global stage, right, and why we're going to these countries to increase our footprint, right, to establish the U.S. dollar as the global dominant currency by using cryptocurrency, stablecoin, right, through the Genius Act. That's been the whole goal of the U.S. Now let's go into this whole thing here. I want you guys to see this here. There we go. Let's go to then the U.S. copying the 1940 playbook. Now we're here. Let's get it in.
Between 1942 and 1951, the United States ran a playbook that took debt from 120% of GDP down to only 35%.
Really?
But the thing is, they didn't pay the debt back.
What?
They inflated it away.
Whoa.
They're running the same playbook again right now. Now, if you were using the most popular investing strategy that your maybe financial advisor pushes today, you would have gotten completely destroyed. And it's not because you picked bad stocks, because the strategy itself was designed to lose under those conditions.
Yes.
But the thing is that now, most people who figure this out, they know they need, outsized returns to beat it. So they start day trading. They start, complex option strategies. They're chasing crypto. They're chasing meme stocks. And most of them blow themselves up.
Yes.
But there's a strategy the top 1% use to take on far less risk with much better performance. It's got nothing to do with picking the right stock. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact mechanism they used in the 1940s, why it's being run again right now, and the strategy that puts you on the right side of all of this. So let's go. All right, so let me show you where all this comes from.
Here we go.
Now, the International Monetary Fund, they published a paper in 2011 titled The Liquidation of Government Debt.
What?
Now, this isn't some conspiracy, right? This is not a blog or fringe theory. The IMF, they documented this. The BIS also put this white paper out. And the IMF documented exactly how governments erase debt through what they call financial repression.
What?
And they put numbers on it. Now, numbers, they're pretty brutal. Now, post-World War II, the United States had debt of 120% of GDP, and they couldn't pay it back, at least not honestly, right? Because the numbers didn't work.
Yeah.
So they ran the playbook. In 1942, the Federal Reserve pegged Treasury bills at 0.3% and long-term bonds at 2.5%.
Okay.
That's called yield curve control. Now, they did that to maintain the peg. The Fed had to buy unlimited quantities of government securities. The Treasury issued the debt, and the Fed absorbed it. But here's what happened on the other side of that. You see, inflation ran hot. Inflation ran 8%, 14%, even as high as 18%.
Wow.
So your bond paid 2.5%. Your savings account paid maybe 1%. But if inflation's running 14% and your return is 1%, that means you're losing 13% per year.
Correct.
That was the policy, right? That's not volatility. That's what they meant to do. But it was that gap between what you earned and what inflation cost you transferred silently from the savers to the government. Now, of course, nobody announced this. Nobody voted on this to happen.
Correct.
But it did happen year after year after year. Now, the IMF calculated that between 1945 and 1980, the United States liquidated debt at a rate of 3 to 4% of GDP per year through these negative real rates alone.
Wow.
That's how the debt went from 120% of GDP down to 35% over just 3 decades. Again, not because they paid it off, because they inflated it away. Now, the U.S. held the peg from 1942 to 1951. It was about 9 years. And by February of 1951, inflation was raging. Inflation hit 21% annualized. And of course, that caused the Fed to finally break. So they had to restructure. And they reached what's called the Treasury-Fed Accord. Now, the Fed regained independence. Rates were allowed to finally start moving again. But by then, the job was already done. Financial repression works by keeping interest rates lower than inflation.
Correct.
Now, when that happens, the real value of debt shrinks, which is great, right? But it's a transfer. It's a tax. It's a tax that nobody voted for, that nobody calls it even a tax. Now, let's fast forward.
So again, this is the reason why people are like, Robert Kiyosaki would say savers are losers because of the silent tax called inflation. So a lot of people get offended when he says that. And I've met Robert, pleasant guy, a very smart man. He's $1.2 billion in good debt. He says that savers are losers. Why? Because of inflation. It is a silent tax. But let's keep watching. Let's keep watching. Here we go.
For today, because what does that have to do with today? Well, today in the U.S., the debt is now 123% of GDP, about the same starting point as 1945. But now, what are we going to do? Well, there's only 4 ways that a government can reduce debt to GDP. The first one is they could run a surplus, right? So they could grow their way out of it. They could make more money than they spend, but that's not happening. We're running $1 trillion plus deficits every single year. So that's not happening. Number 2, well, you could just default, right? Just say you're not going to pay back the money, but of course that's off the table. A U.S. default collapses the entire global financial system, and of course we have a money printer, so why would we? Well, there's a third option, and that's grow faster than the debt, and so maybe GDP could just grow naturally faster than the debt's going up. That might be good. Maybe AI could accelerate this. Maybe we might see more productivity, but it's uncertain and it's slow. Finally, the fourth option, the one they all choose, is inflate the debt away. That's the only realistic option that's left. Now, look at what's happening here, right? The Fed is, again, right now, cutting rates. Real inflation, food, healthcare, housing, it's all running hot, right? It's about 50% above what the official numbers want it to be. And every structural advantage that the U.S. had in the 1940s, younger populations, industrial dominance, 15 to 20% saving rate, it's all gone. Now today, the savings rate in the U.S. is about 3 to 4%. So there's no cushion there. Now, the 1940s version of this playbook, it was improvised, right? They were figuring it all out as they went along back then. But today's version, it's deliberate, it's fixed, it's optimized. They've had 80 years of data proving it works, and now we can see this is exactly shaping up. We can see the new Fed chair nominee, Kevin Warsh, he's been nominated, and he's publicly calling for a new Fed Treasury Accord. Same thing. Now, again, in 1951, that accord ended yield curve control. Now, why would he be talking about that unless the same structure is already being considered? Well, that's the same playbook being dusted off. And the vehicle this time, it's your retirement account. It's your brokerage, it's your bond holdings, it's anything denominated in dollars that's supposed to be safe. Okay, so now
Wait a minute. Let's go back for the folk in the back row. Let's go back real fast. He said something that probably shook you in your boots. Here we go.
That accord ended yield curve control. Now, why would he be talking about that unless the same structure is already being considered? Well, that's the same playbook being dusted off. And the vehicle this time, it's your retirement account. It's your brokerage, it's your bond holdings, it's anything denominated in dollars that's supposed to be safe.
He's talking about them using your retirement account. 401k, 403b, IRA, Roth IRA, TSP, maybe even your annuity as an instrument to inflate the debt away. I thought that's supposed to be safe. Now do you see why people like Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki would say savers are losers, 401ks are trash? And they're talking about from a savings component. Not from a leverage component, a savings component. Do we see? Do we see? Again, that probably shook a lot of people. Again, inflating the debt away. That's what they want to do. All right? That's what they want to do. You know what? Let's keep going real fast. Let's go back. Let's keep going. We're almost there. Let's get it in.
Okay, so now most people hear what I just explained, and they do one of a couple of things. The first group, they're probably not even paying attention. They don't even know. So they just continue to do what their financial advisor tells them to do, maybe what their plan administrator does. And that's most commonly something either called a 60-40 portfolio. So that's 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Or maybe it's something more like Ray Dalio's all-weather portfolio. The thing is, for both of those, is they have significant bond exposure. And as I just explained, the way this playbook works is by crushing bond holders, liquidating them. So the portion of your portfolio that's supposed to be safe, the bond part, it's not protecting you. That's the part that's being liquidated intentionally. So whether you're on a
So stop right there, guys. Now, how are they doing this? It's because of the fact that they're crushing the bond market, and your retirement is tied to what? Treasuries and bonds. They're crushing it. The inflation. Therefore, inflation is eating up your liquidity or your income there, or your yield there, because you're earning less than inflation. My man Alonzo said, "What's up, baby?" You said if it's a qualified annuity, I see it happening. This is a trained, licensed insurance and financial professional. He's a financial licensed professional in several licenses. He's saying if it's a qualified annuity, I see it happening. So annuities, you're not safe. This is not them raiding your money. This is them inflating it away. How? How would they do that? The inflation, eating up your yield. So if you're normally making a 5% yield on an annual basis, I'm using simple numbers here, and you should see a 5% uptick in your retirement account, but inflation is at a 7%, 8, 9, 10%, you're losing anywhere from 2 to 5%. You're losing money because your retirement is tied to what? Treasury and bonds, which they are crushing via inflation to inflate the debt away. Now, do you see why people like Elon Musk, myself, and other investors buy a lot of real estate, own businesses, life insurance policies, right? We have very little money in those other insurance, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, TSPs. Why? Number one, the velocity of the money is too damn slow. And number two, is tied to the bond market. It's tied to it. Don't take my word for it, guys. Listen to Alonzo. And follow Alonzo. Follow Social Media Insurance, bro. Follow him. He gives out great content, great information. Go follow him. Learn something. Good friend of mine. Good friend of mine. And again, I'm not giving any type of financial advice at all, nothing like that at all. Period. No, I'm not a licensed professional. I'm not a CPA, none of that. Please, what I'm telling you, please consult a financial professional. Please do that. Please. Okay. All right. Now let's go over to the last thing we're going to cover today, guys, which is what? Now that you have the history behind it, the strategy to inflate it away, the debt away, because be honest with you guys, fast. This right here, real quickly here, my man Alonzo said, he said this here. He said, I now understand why you prefer an IUL, especially in the income bracket. Exactly. Step on the heart. Now, guys, I want to show you guys this real fast. This is why I think debtclock.org. .org. Okay, 1 second, guys. I want you guys to see this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's do this real fast, guys. Let's go to here. I have it saved here, and boom. All right, here we go. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Here we go. Debt clock. 1 second, guys. Debt clock. Okay, here we go. Boom. All right, here we go. Here's the U.S. debt clock real fast. I want you guys to see this in real time. I want you guys to see this here. I want you to see this, and I want to show you where the lie is. Here is the U.S. debt clock in real time. Real time, all right? I'm going to make myself smaller so you guys can see it, right? You can see it. Come on. There we go. And I'm going to get rid of this real quickly here because I want to point something out to you before I get done. All right? Here it is. All right, guys. This is deadclock.org, guys. All right, I want you to follow what I'm saying. Follow this real fast. Number one, this right here says we have $39 trillion in national debt. 39 trillion. This right here says we actually have 5.41 trillion coming in tax revenue. The government does not make any goods or services. It makes its income off of taxes. So it's $5.41 trillion, right? That's what it says, right? We're spending 7.1 trillion. So we are bringing in 5.4 trillion, spending 7.1 trillion. We're 1.6 trillion in arrears. That's unsustainable. Unsustainable, guys. But let me let you guys know of a real fact here, right? Now, before I got here, it says our U.S. gross domestic product is 31 trillion. A GDP, or gross domestic product, it's kind of like a house appraisal. It says your house is valued at X. That's the valuation of a U.S. economy, right? 31 trillion. We're still in the arrears. We owe more than the valuation. Bad combination. Right now, get this. Guys, it's $39 trillion right here, guys. That's a lie. Why? Because Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, which are liabilities on a balance sheet, they're not included in this figure at all. They're not. We're actually probably between $100 to $200 trillion in debt. So when you hear politicians say, we need to cut spending, that's a sales pitch. They never will. They can't. If they do that, guys, the whole system comes crashing down. They can't. Cannot. Only option they have is to inflate the debt away. Only option they have. All right, guys? So, with that being said, guys, let's go to the last portion real quickly here, and then we'll be done. Thank you guys so much for kicking it with your partner. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Move that. Gotcha. Boom. Now, let's go over here to get rid of that real fast. Boom. This is the last video we have for today, guys. Now, we've talked about this whole thing here, guys, about what their true plan is. Now, guys, let's dive into this one real quickly here, all right? I'm going to come back on screen. There I am. Remember, I made the point concerning how the Iran bombing was already planned, in my opinion, before we even did anything in Venezuela. It was because of oil and natural gas. I'm sorry, oil and natural resources. I'm sorry. That's all it's about. Venezuela, Ukraine, Greenland, Iran, it's all about natural resources. And for the U.S. to increase, and Cuba, to increase our footprint on the global stage. That's all it's about. And to force the world to what? Go digital. El Salvador has already adopted cryptocurrency as its currency. Western Union just established their own stablecoin. Western Union, all the banks have too. Now watch this now. The banks have done it reluctantly. But Trump did something that was pivotal. After the Genius Act had been passed. All right? Let's see what actually happened. This is while the war in Iran is going on. Listen to what's going on. Here we go. Let's get it in.
The whole world is watching Iran right now. Something happened this week that most people completely missed. Trump publicly went to war with the banks. And I don't mean metaphorically, I mean he called them out by name. And the reason why this matters to you is simple. The outcome of this fight will determine which side of the biggest wealth transfer of our lifetime you end up on. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening, why the banks were terrified, and what you need to do about it. So let's go. All right, let's just get going in this. Like right now, everybody is locked in on the war over in Iran, and they should. It's important, right? I get that. War, maybe World War III, Israel, Iran, China, oil supply, geopolitical risk, all of that, right? There's, of course, plenty of politics to fight over with that. And of course, that stuff, it all matters, okay? But while all the eyes are pointed over there, something happened this week in Washington that's part of a much bigger developing story.
Really?
Something I've been talking about since probably, I don't know, the beginning of the year.
All right.
I think it's actually more consequential for your financial life than anything that's happening in the Middle East right now.
Okay.
Now, what happened is Trump went to war, but this time with the banks.
What?
And I'm not talking about like a policy disagreement. I'm not talking about a strongly worded letter. He literally posted publicly about this on his True Social account. And he basically drew a red line and he named the banks directly. And he said, what they're doing is unacceptable. And the banks, well, they fired back almost immediately. Now, most people are going to see this as, I don't know, some political noise, right? A fight in Washington over some crypto stablecoin bill and think that's boring and probably skip past this video, but that's a mistake. I wouldn't be making this video for you if that's really all there was, because I know that you can read the news on your own.
Yep.
But I'm here to help you understand what it means. I want you to think in second or third or fourth order effects. I want you to understand the historical parallels of what this means, because what's actually underneath this fight, right? The reason that the banks are spending tens of millions of dollars to stop this legislation, it's way bigger. It goes way deeper than crypto. This is about who controls money. This is about your ability to transact. This is about the monopoly the banks have held since 1913. That's for the first time being genuinely threatened. And here's why that should matter to you and I personally. Every single time the money system has restructured, at least in American history, this will be now the third time that we've seen this. The people who understood what was happening, they got wealthy. And the people who didn't, well, they got left behind.
Sure did.
All right, so let's talk about what's actually going on here. And it really starts with a warning that was written, 200 years ago. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Thomas Jefferson. He was the third president of the United States. He was one of course, one of the original founding fathers. And he warned us all the way back in 1802. He said, quote, "The banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies."
Wow.
If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered.
That's correct.
End quote. All right, so look, obviously these guys were super smart, right? They could think in these second and third and fourth order effects, right? They understood the real dangers of having a banking system long before those dangers were even apparent or visible at the time. Now, Jefferson didn't say that banks were greedy, right? Which they are. He didn't say that they charged too many fees, which they do. He said they were more dangerous than armies. He said they would systematically strip citizens of their property.
Yes, they would.
And he said it would happen so gradually that most people wouldn't even see it coming.
Right.
Now, was he being dramatic? Or was he describing the precise mechanism of how this works? What's important to understand is that Jefferson, he wrote this before the Federal Reserve even existed, right? He wrote it before Nixon closed the gold window. He wrote it before there was any major restructuring of the American money system. But he knew it because he was watching the early formation of banking power, right? He was alarmed enough to write it down as a warning for future generations. Now, unfortunately for us today, that warning, it wasn't taken seriously. So here we are 200 years later, and the system that he was afraid of, the system he feared, it's the exact system that we have, all right? But now that you understand what Trump is actually fighting for, but of course, if you're not up to speed on the specifics, you need a little bit of context on what's been happening in Washington over the last year, right? Because this didn't just start this week, right? This has been going on at least since the beginning of the year. It's started really when Trump came back into office. Now, one of his stated priorities was making the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. Now, he actually started delivering on that, right? So earlier this year, we saw Congress pass what's called the Genius Act, and that was a really big deal. It was the first federal regulatory framework for stablecoins that was ever passed in the United States. It was the first time there were clear rules around what a stablecoin is, how they should work, and more importantly, who can issue one. Now, if you're wondering why stablecoins even matter, hang on. I'm going to get to that in a second, because that's really at the heart of this entire fight. Now, the Genius Act was just the first step, right? It was the first piece, but the next piece of legislation is what's called the Clarity Act, all right? And this is where it gets even bigger, because the Clarity Act passed already through the House. It's now sitting in the Senate Banking Committee.
That's
And
right.
if it's passed, it creates clear regulatory framework for the entire digital asset
Correct.
market, which I know it sounds boring, I get that. But buried inside this bill is one specific provision.
Listen.
It's Section 404, all right? Now, Section 404 is what the mainstream press are completely missing. Maybe they're completely ignoring, but it's the reason that the banks are spending tens of millions of dollars to make sure this bill never sees the Senate vote. Now, President Trump wants these bills to go through, right? He wants the U.S. to lead in everything. He wants the U.S. to lead in technology and every area of technology, including banking. But the banks, they're quietly lobbying behind the scenes to kill this administrative bill. The Clarity Act, they don't want it. Trump certainly has his hands full right now with everything that's going on in the world, like right now, but he's still watching all this happen, and apparently he's had enough, right? So he went this week onto True Social, and he posted something that, well, most of what he does we've never seen from any sitting president, and certainly what he said here has never been said by any president, at least publicly. And he called out the banks directly. He said the Genius Act is being threatened and undermined by the banks, and that's unacceptable. He said that Americans should be earning more money on their money. He said that the banks are hitting record profits while trying to undermine the crypto agenda. And he said the banks should not be holding the Clarity Act hostage. And he named him. He called him out, right, on his public platform as president of the United States.
Wow. Yo. Y'all better be reading these bills, man. The Clarity Act. Y'all heard of the Clarity Act before? Y'all heard of that before? If not, now you have. Clarity Act shakes hands with the Genius Act, and it directly threatens the banks. It threatens the banks to take away the monopoly that the banks actually have when it comes to transactions, the banking system. It flips it on its head. This is the reason why Trump went so hard when they came to crypto. Is also, not only is it benefit for us on the global stage, but also domestically, because it gives the control of transactions and banking back to the consumers and not the banks. For example, let me ask you guys a question real fast. And now I'm going into the counter move here, guys. All right, the counter move here. Now, well, never mind. Let's go back here. What if, now, when you go buy a house, it takes you, 30 to 45 days to close, right? You have so many different type of hands in the pot, guys. Everybody, mama wants to do something with you. Everything is there. And if you look at a HUD or an Alta when you're buying a house, selling a house, there's a lot of fees that typically gets about anywhere from 3 to 5%, right? Depending on the state. Could be even more sometimes, right? And those are just fees, taxes, title fees, stuff like that. So there's a lot of hands in the pot. So you have to bring those fees to the table, or somebody does. It takes 30 to 45 days for you to close. That's what the banks being the monopoly. And when you send the wire, it goes to the Federal Reserve first. They confirm it, and then it gets sent down to the party, the title company itself, right? Or if you send a wire to someone else, it goes to the Federal Reserve first, and then it comes to you, right? It comes to you. Now, with that being stated, guys, what happens now is when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's consumer to consumer. What if you can actually complete a house transaction in 3 minutes? How about 1 minute? How about 30 seconds? And so let's say you cut the cost from 5% down to 0.01%. Do you see who gets more of the control? Is it you, or is it the banks? Right now, the banks are killing the game. I don't know about you. If I can buy a house or an investment or buy something in 30 seconds, a minute, versus 30 to 45 days, that's more appealing to me. And it costs me a fraction of the cost. Don't know about you. That seems very appealing to me. This is the war that Trump has against the banks. The banks want to control the banking system moving forward. Trump says no. And the Genius Act was actually passed in direct, I guess, as was an adversarial bill toward the banks. And there's a second bill which has passed the House called the Clarity Act. Now is in the Senate Budgetary Committee right now. And the banks are investing millions of dollars to lobby against the Senate Budgetary Committee passing that. And Trump wants it on his desk for him to sign, because it directly threatens the monopoly hold of the banks. Go read the Clarity Act and the Genius Act. Go read it. Know what's going on, guys. Know what's going on. Because if you don't, you get left behind. Mark is spot on. Those that are positioned and that are ready for the shift that is coming. And it's coming, guys. It's coming. This change, this type of readiness changes 3, 4, 5 generations. The Vanderbilts were ready. The Rockefellers were ready. Are you ready? If you're not ready, you'll be in the same boat that you were in 10 years ago. What's the fast way for you to get ready? Simple. Get educated, number one. Number two, go work for somebody that's been where you're at. Number three, partner with them. If you need to partner with them as well. Not hard. But those that are ready, make the shift. Formulate a good power team. People that can assist you from going from here to here as fast as possible. And with AI being the new kid on the block that's taking folks' jobs. I'm talking to a good friend of mine. You have AI lawyers. You have AI out maneuvering real lawyers in cases. Like this ain't. I mean, you have AI taking out blue collar jobs, white collar jobs. If you're not ready for the shift, you're going to be left behind. And damn it, I'm ready for the shift. And I'm always looking to get even more ready. People like Mark Moss, you should be listening to, Myron Golden, Your Pilot Liddell Bugs. Brian Adamson is another guy you listen to, right? Dan Martell, Robert Kiyosaki, Presley Swaggerty. People like that. You should be listening to these individuals. Listen to them. John Maxwell, Logan Stout. Listen to these individuals. And I'm going to bring these guys on, right, to talk about the shift. I mean, we're going to walk through it on a whiteboard, the formulas. But I guarantee you, some of you guys will just listen to it and fall in love with the information that's been communicated, and there'll be no action at all. And then when you get left behind, you begin to complain. Get ready. Plan for your kids' kids. A wise man plans for his children's children. A broke person plans for Saturday night. Which one are you? Which one are you? All right, guys. Well, guys, that's all I have for today. Whoo, man, this is really informative, guys. Hey, guys, fairly quickly here, guys. Let me see here. Okay, that's all I needed. All right, guys. Like I said before, tomorrow we have Real Estate Friday Live, guys. Tomorrow, me and Cliff are going to be talking about a lot of things real estate wise, guys. Man, Real Estate Friday Live. Here's a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're talking about. Here we go.
Okay.
Sir, there's a GC right there. Cliff.
Go.
It's piers. We got concrete piers and wood piers.
Yes,
got
sir.
The checklist. Check out the checklist.
Yes,
we got it for everything we need.
Yes, sir.
Right, you forget some things sometimes. So this is going to outline. Make sure you hit every single thing. What's the foundation? Plumbing, electric, painting, flooring, everything. So you don't miss anything.
Okay.
You want to make sure you get all your checks.
Okay. Y'all want to introduce you guys to Cliff Hunter. Cliff is a world-renowned flipper. He actually flips. He's also a GC as well. He's a good contractor. When it comes to all of our renovations all over the nation, you'll talk to this guy right here. Guys, that's Real Estate Friday Live every Friday at 5 p.m. CST. Come kick with your partner Cliff. We talk about all things real estate tomorrow. We're talking about how the Japanese yen could be used. That currency could be used to revitalize the real estate market. Uh-oh. Yes, sir. It's going to be good tomorrow. You don't want to miss tomorrow. All right, guys. And also, guys, like I said before, I'm bringing back the Economy podcast, the interview series. We're going to call it the White Board series, guys. Here's a little brief sneak peek of what we're going to be talking about. Here we go. One of the many questions that I receive is, Liddell, how do I get into those rooms? Well, this interview series is just for you. So welcome to the room.
We on now. They respect us cause we on now. Money up, run a whole town, don't we? This power money can't slow down. Money won't slow down. Ooh, we doing a lot. How we got on top. How we got on the top. Network and hustle.
Guys, this Economy podcast, the interview series is coming back, guys. It's coming back. We got a killer lineup for you guys as well, baby. It's gonna be really good. We bring on a business mogul, a political mogul, a social mogul, you name it, guys. We'll bring them on, talk about who they are, what they've done, or how they've been able to accomplish what they've been able to accomplish. And also, we're gonna go into the whiteboard, and we're gonna write out formulas how they went from zero to making millions, sometimes even billions of dollars. I got a lineup for you guys. It's going to be off the chain, man. Woo-wee. All right, guys. But guys, man, thank you so much for your time, guys. Let's see. Anything else I got to say? Not at all. But guys, see you guys tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much for your time. God bless you guys. Here we go. Peace. What's good, guys? It's your partner Dale here, man. Hey, I always say that when it comes to real estate, I think this is the best time. The next 3 to 5 years is the best time, in my opinion, to begin to invest in real estate. Whether you are a seasoned investor or a novice investor, this is the best time, in my opinion, to invest in real estate. Now, why would I say that? It's very simple. Whenever there is some stagnation within the real estate industry, that's the best time to get deals, right? Deals are what attract the capital, right? A good deal will always attract good capital. Now, what's a good deal? Well, I like buying distressed properties below wholesale. The skill to buying right is learning how to locate distressed properties in your city, county, or state. Now, the good thing about it is we are giving away a free ebook called Distressed Property Investing. We talk about different ways of locating distressed properties in your city, county, state, what to look for, who to call, things of that nature. It is free. Once you master this type of skill of locating distressed properties, you'll never be broke ever again, because good deals attract the right capital. All right, guys? So to get the free ebook, click on the link below, scan on the QR code here on the screen, or you can DM us the word real estate and my team will get you out this free ebook. Again, it's completely free. Just want to get you this information so you can begin to get the bag while buying real estate. Stay blessed and holla at your partner.
Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks.
Still working 40 plus hours a week and still broke. Inflation's outpacing your wages. Insurance is insane. And your side hustle just isn't cutting it. What if I told you there was a way for you to build income by leveraging and using the exact same technology that banks and big corporations currently use right now, with no inventory and no tech skills needed? We have helped hundreds escape the paycheck-to-paycheck trap by sharing smarter services like lower cost healthcare, competitive auto and home insurance, better loan products, higher yield bank deposits, and even ways to cut energy costs, all in one place. Take this 30-second quiz to see if you qualify. Click on the link below or click on the link in my bio.